Welcome, curious soul, to Tales of the Tattered Book. I am your host, the keeper of the book, guardian of an ancient tome whose pages fill themselves with stories of terror and wonder. Each week, as midnight approaches, this mysterious book reveals new tales of horror, some pulled from history's darkest corners, while others reach us from realms beyond human understanding. As I open this arcane tome, remember, knowledge comes at a price, and some truth are better left unspoken. Tonight we journey to the rolling hills of England, where ancient forests hide secrets older than time itself. A simple shepherd boy is about to learn that some boundaries should never be crossed, and some gods should never be awakened. Gather close and listen to the chilling tale of the ritual.
Ewan knew the field like the back of his hand. Every blade of fescue, every rise and hollow of the rolling hills, every gnarled hawthorn tree that marked the boundary. And he knew exactly where the old willow tree stood, its roots so deeply embedded in the soil that it seemed to have always been a part of the landscape. The young man had spent his whole life, all 16 years of it, herding goats in the Breckshire Valley, and their soft bells ringing was a pleasant, constant sound that brought him a sense of peace and familiarity. The forest, though, was a different story. It loomed at the meadow's edge, a dark and ancient barrier known as the Wood of the Old Ones. Old Farmer Giles, his beard as white as a winter storm, spoke of the forest in hushed tones around the crackling fire. He claimed the trees themselves were the oldest beings in Britain, reaching back to a time before men walked the land.
Be mindful, Ewan. The forest is alive with its own spirit, and not all spirits are friendly. There's an ancient witch that resides deep in those woods, Niamh Gusthburg, or as people call her back in the days, Blackthorn Niamh. I have seen her myself once on a night blacker than a raven's wing. She stood there at the edge of the woods like a white ghost, and let me tell you, it gave me quite the scare. You don't want to cross her, lad.
Niamh Gusthburg. Whispers claimed she was a descendant of the ancient Celtic Druids, ostracized for practices deemed heretical by the new Christian faith. Fleeing persecution, she sought refuge in the Wood of the Old Ones a century ago. Many believed she perished within its depths, succumbed to the harsh elements, or some unknown fate. Yet old Giles was not the only one who claimed to have seen her. Ewan would often dismiss Giles's words as old man's ramblings, woven from the raveled threads of half-remembered folk tales and long nights spent alone with his thoughts. Ewan squinted at the tree line, the dense foliage blurring in the afternoon sun. He could almost swear he saw a flicker of movement, a dark shape darting between the ancient trunks. Was it just a trick of the light or a glimpse of the rumored witch? Suddenly, a loud bleat shattered the silence. Ewan whipped around to see Midnight, his prized black billy goat, bolted towards the forest. Fear pricked Ewan, a cold sweat forming on his brow. He knew he couldn't let the animal get away. The thought of facing his father's belt upon returning home with missing livestock was much scarier than any dangers that may have been lurking in the woods. He swallowed hard as he followed Midnight inside the old forest. As he crossed the threshold into the wood, the temperature dropped noticeably. The air grew dense, filled with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The goat was not in sight, so he had to rely on his other senses to track her, following the sound of the little bell attached to its neck. The deeper he ventured into this unhallowed woodland, the more distorted and malformed the forest became. The trees no longer resembled trees at all. Their trunks were bent and contorted into grotesque human-like shapes. Their branches stretched out like bony arms, seemingly ready to snatch Ewan at any moment. Even the sky, which could still be seen through the shifting leaves, appeared darker, as if obscured by some otherworldly shadow. Ewan couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched, as if the forest was alive and observing his every move. He pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. A faint sound of the bleating goat spurred him forward. Eventually, Ewan spotted a break in the trees ahead, an irregularity in the otherwise oppressive forest. Through the leafy curtain, he saw a clearing. He couldn't believe his eyes. In the middle of the clearing was a cottage with a thick thatched roof. The windows were darkened hollows, and the door hung askew on its hinges. To the side of the house, enveloped by a canopy of weeping willows, sat a decrepit shed. And there it was, Midnight, trotting into the shed and flicking its tail dismissively at him. A rush of relief washed over Ewan as he quickly ran towards the shed to retrieve his animal. He froze in his track when he heard a voice came over inside the house. The voice was a harsh, raspy cackle, adorned with an edge of mania that seemed to drip from every word. It muttered something unintelligible, only snippets of sentences and indistinct words reaching Ewan's ears. Steeling himself with a deep breath, he crouched down and crept up to the window, peering inside through a gap in the dilapidated wooden shutters. By the dim light of a flickering candle, Ewan saw her, Niamh Gusthburg. The hag, as there was no doubt about her nature, was a ghastly sight. Her hair, a matted mess of tangled strands, was streaked with dirt and leaves, cascading down her hunched back like a wild, untamed mane. Her face was pallid and wrinkled, with yellow and black teeth jutting out from her cracked, parched lips. Long, bony arms, covered in sagging skin, ended in claw-like hands. She was slurping from a wooden bowl, the contents of which made Ewan's stomach churn. Floating in a murky broth were dismembered human ears and eyes that almost made Ewan retch.
"There you are,"
she crooned, addressing the black goat that had led Ewan here. The goat nuzzled her, and she murmured something Ewan couldn't quite catch. Then her head snapped up and she spoke again, louder this time.
"So he is here, at the window?"
Ewan's blood ran cold. In his panic, he stumbled backward, making a rustling noise as he fell into the underbrush. Heart pounding, he forced himself to look back at the window, hoping that she hadn't seen him. But the hag was gone and the window was empty. Relief began to creep in. But then, her grotesque face appeared right in front of him, pressing against the glass, her hollow eyes locking onto his. The shock was too much. Ewan's vision went black as he fainted from sheer terror. When Ewan woke up, he found himself in a dark and small space. He tried to move but realized he was tightly bound, his limbs immobile, the walls of his imprisonment slimy and warm to the touch. The air was thick with the stench of decay and something else, something acrid and smoky. Panic surged through him as he struggled against his restraints. He managed to find a small gap between the tight cords that enclosed him and became aware of his surroundings. It was a dark cave with eldritch carvings on its walls, on the ceilings, grotesque wood statuettes that hung menacingly above him. Guttural chanting filled the cave, echoing off the walls. Ewan's heart pounded as he recognized the voices. It was the hag and others, many others all chanting in an ancient blasphemous language. Suddenly a dark figure in robes grabbed him and lifted him up, bringing him closer to the chanting. Ewan tried to scream for help, but no one responded. His voice was drowned out by the intense chants echoing through the cavern. No one could save him. The chilling thoughts were cut short as he was hauled in front of the grotesque figure of Niamh Gusthburg. In her right hand, she cradled a knife fashioned from obsidian, carved with old runes.
"Awake at last?"
she drawled, her voice a gravelly tone that seemed to slither through the air, her lips curled into a twisted smile. Behind her on the ceiling was a strange body of water, a pool that defied gravity, its surface quivering with an otherworldly luster. It was an eerie silver pond, rippling like mercury. In its reflection he saw himself trapped inside the sown belly of Midnight, the black goat who'd led him into this hideous nightmare. The hag's was also mirrored in its surface, yet the reflection bore a younger likeness, a memory perhaps of who she was.
"The time has come for your tribute,"
Niamh announced, and the other figures immediately halted their chant.
"Ia Shub Niggurath,"
she intoned, raising her arms towards the silvery pool above her head.
"the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young. Let thy name resound in the dark abysses of space. Let thy praises ascend from worm-eaten Yadith. May glory be rendered unto thee on Yuggoth at the utmost edge. O mighty mother, thou who beget the progeny, thou who devours worlds and extinguishes stars, Ya Shub Niggurath, black goat of the woods.
At her command, the water began to stir and swirl, forming a vortex in the center of the pool. From its depths emerged a tentacle, writhing and twisting. Niamh continued her chant, her voice deepening into an inhuman timbre. With a swift and fluid motion, Niamh Gusthburg raised her obsidian knife high above her head. Ewan's eyes widened in terror as the realization of what was about to happen hit him. He opened his mouth to scream, but all that came out were weak gasps. With a guttural scream, the hag thrust the blade downward with brute force, fading everything into black. Weeks later, in a distant village, a young girl named Isla heard a faint bleating outside her window one night. Curiosity piqued. She opened the shutters to see a black goat standing at the edge of the forest. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its soft bells rang eerily in the still air.
"Come on in,"
Isla called out joyfully as she closed the door, unwittingly inviting the darkness into her home.
And so, dear listeners, we leave young Isla on the threshold of a terror she cannot yet comprehend. Remember, not all that beckons should be followed, and some invitations lead only to darkness. The next time you hear an unexpected sound in the night, perhaps it's best to keep your doors firmly shut. If you dare to delve deeper into these eldritch mysteries, subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review, and whisper of our tales to others. Your engagement feeds the book, fueling the terrors yet to come. Until next time, and may your nights be sleepless and your dreams unsettling.